yours this morning when I got up.
What happened?
The humidity out here in Cape Elizabeth, I guess.
Really?
On the opposite, it's like drags the weights it down.
I guess
Weird.
that was kind of how my hair was behaving a little bit on. Well, I only wash my hair on Mondays and Thursdays now, so.
Okay, I only wash my hair on Tuesdays and Thursdays anytime.
Oh, cool. uh, all right, let me post this link. Boop, 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 boop. And I'll send it to my mother directly because she watches. And that way she doesn't have to find it. um, well, thanks for being on my show.
Oh, I'm excited. I've been waiting all week for it.
Oh, I know. We were supposed to meet on Tuesday of last week, and I totally flaked. So I'm glad that this is a thing that I have to do. Like,
This
oh,
is
Crystal,
our
you have to do this.
what do we call
Our
this? This is our
check-ins.
COVID.
Yeah. Um. So April, my first question: what's not wrong with your life?
What's not wrong with my life? That's a really short list. No, actually, there's a lot. I have a tendency to be a bit of a positive person, so I tend to see the glass really full and
Okay.
over full, um, rather than and trying to find the positive things because it's so easy normally for me to get depressed.
Right. So what's not wrong with your life?
So I have a an amazing partner who
Great.
has been our relationship has actually gotten better
Good.
living with each other in close proximity. I have an amazing dog, Ramsey. Keeps makes sure I get up and moving every day.
That's good. Yeah.
And I'm an organized. I have organized my life so that I can get through this a little bit, but I still have the roller coaster.
Sure. We all do. So with that, I'm gonna play the theme song.
Ooh,
I know. Aren't you so excited?
I am psyched here.
Okay, here we go.
Welcome to Krista's new talk show. It's really something, don't you know? There's a friend and maybe there's a cat. Maybe they'll take some time to chat. Her mother thinks she's funny. Her mother thinks she's funny. Her mother thinks she's funny. And maybe you will too.
Are you ready for this?
So thanks for joining me for episode 13 of My Mother Thinks I'm Funny. Today, my guest is April Elaine Powell, who is a former chef. You are a mom of 3 boys. You are a business owner and interior designer. And you are my friend. Thanks for being on my show today, April.
I'm super psyched to be here,
Great.
and I mean that in a big way.
So our first quick segment is there a cat near you? If so, please introduce us to your cat.
I only have a dog that plays with cats.
That counts. Jerry happens to be sitting right here in the window, so part of the reason I do this segment is just in case, they wander on screen, we want to know who they are. So come here, Jerry. Ugh. Ugh. What are you stuck on? Oh God. He's stuck in the blinds. How did you do this? Oh my God, Jerry.
Yep, that's the cat I remember.
Well, that explains why he looked like he was stuck. He was. So this is Jerry Orbach.
Hey, Jerry, nice romp.
Thanks for being on my show. I'm sorry, Ramsey, your dog could not join us.
He's busy napping.
Good for him. It seems like a napping day. It's starting to get warm.
He's
that
got a
kind
lot of
thing.
fur. I totally get it.
If I had fur, I'd nap a lot. Of course, if I had fur, I probably wouldn't be expected to have a job.
Oh, good point. Good point.
Yeah.
Very
Yeah.
good point.
So let's see. I'm talking to people about their moments. Do you have a moment you want to share?
Wow. I've had a lot of them in my lifetime. I'm trying to think of one the most recent one that's relevant. Maybe
Yeah.
the aha moment was when I realized that the world doesn't revolve around me.
Okay. I feel like that's a big aha, not just a huh. That's an aha.
um, kind of a sad thought if you think about it. We won't go there. Moment would be.
Well, wait.
Um,
Let's go back. How did you? Okay. What made you come to this realization that the world didn't revolve? How did you figure that out? What happened?
I had 3 children.
Oh, okay. Sure.
The first one actually enlightened me. The second
Yeah.
one drove the
the point home.
reiterated, and the third one drove it home. I'd say the moment was
Yeah, like maybe kind of a mundane revelation, something that you realized about yourself or about the people have had different responses to this, but I like to think of it as kind of a huh.
well, we have a our backyard, or I should say this, our side yard has become the wildlife thoroughfare, if you will, for
Okay.
Cape Elizabeth.
Okay.
And it was like, I had no idea that we had turtles the size of small vehicles. We had a snapping turtle most recently, just making his move to get across to Great Pond, which is across the road from us, and we're like, what are you doing on this side of the road to begin with? Why would you be here?
Huh.
But it was pretty fascinating, and then it was funny because my partner, he decides to go stop traffic so it can get across the road safely.
That's very sweet.
And people were actually, quite cool about stopping. You expected somebody, the horn honking and what are you
Was
doing,
it a
crazy
big
person?
turtle?
He was good size. I would say he was probably bigger than my computer.
Wow.
He was big.
So yeah, like at least 12 inches.
Yeah, I would say going on probably more like 20, 25.
Wow. Okay, that's quite a bit bigger than. I mean, I don't know. My computer's 12 inches, so I don't know.
Mine's a little bigger. But so
Maybe
yeah, I'd say he's
13,
probably
yeah.
20, 25 inches wide. If you
Wow.
count his tail and his head when they were out, but he was big and he was moving pretty fast. I know these story turtles are slow. I have proof that it's not true. I actually videotaped it.
Wow. When I was in community college and living with my dad, we had neighbors, but like everyone had like a decent amount of property. It was pretty rural. So I think we had like 10 acres, but it was like straight down into a canyon, and like the neighbors had 10 acres straight down into a canyon. Anyway, but there was some people a little further down the road. There was a newspaper article about them because their 100-year-old tortoise had escaped.
Oh my.
And they had, when you'd walk by their house, they had, like a gate, and they had a dog house for their tortoise. And he was just this 100-year-old tortoise that lived with them, and then he escaped, and it got written up in the local paper.
Whoa, I can imagine it was pretty good size.
Yeah, that guy was big. Like they found him, and like I saw him also because I'd walk by their house with dogs, and that guy it was a pretty big tortoise. Well, not bigger than me, but he was a big tortoise. And I am ashamed I don't super know the difference between tortoise and turtles. I think it has something to do with water, but that was never my strong suit.
You're probably right. There's probably something there. We should probably know these things from school. It didn't stick.
We learned other things.
We did.
Yeah, we decided which knowledge was important for us, and that was not one of it.
That was not one of them.
No. But I think you probably have a turtle in your backyard, not a tortoise.
Yeah, he's pretty good size, and it's not the first one. We've seen little ones before, and they've been different, like the paints, I think they're called, which are a little different. But the snapping turtle, that size, could do some damage.
Sure.
They fish. I'm thinking if I was him, I'd be going to Great Pond across the way too, because there's good bass fishing over there.
I'm not much a fisher myself. I did catch a turtle once when fishing.
That's
I
a
was
common.
very traumatized. I was probably under 6, and we
Oh,
threw it back.
yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, but I was real upset. Poor turtle. Uh,
So anytime you want to come visit the wildlife refuge, we've named it.
Wildlife
We've
Alley.
given it a couple of names. We're working on a full the last brand name for our wildlife refuge. But we have seen turtles, meerkats. Oh, not meerkats.
Possums.
We haven't seen a possum yet. We've seen raccoons, deer, of course, um, otters. Um, we saw bobcat,
Wow.
coyotes. Um,
Do you have native plants?
we have a lot of native plants, but there's a lot of invasive in our space too. We have 13 acres.
Oh, okay.
And actually, at the back of our lot, it has just been discovered that there are endangered species of the cottontail.
Is
There's a
that a
couple of
rabbit?
habitats back
Or is
there.
that a moth?
It's a rabbit.
Oh, okay. I feel like that could be a moth too. I don't know.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. But then we have a
Yeah.
little. We have a the head the headwaters, I guess it's called, of oh, I always get this wrong. Pollock Creek. So there's a spring. There's actually a spring back there.
Oh, nice.
So it's quite the thoroughfare.
Yeah.
Who knew?
Well, now you do.
Oh, we do.
So you've been home to watch it. Um, so at this point, I would normally play a mom joke video. We do not have a mom joke video for you. So, since you are a mom, I was wondering if you would tell a joke.
Ooh, let's see. Jokes are not one of my fortes.
But give it a shot.
Just ask my kids. They would tell you, Mom's not good at telling jokes. I'm funny, but I'm funny in a behavioral way. Not so much telling the obvious. Let's see. Hold on a minute. Gotta think of something. How about a knock knock joke?
Sounds great.
Knock knock.
Who's there?
I don't know.
I don't know who.
I don't know, but you better get out of the way. Not good at this.
I liked it. I liked it. Did you just make that up?
I just because I couldn't think of anything.
I know. I think that's great. But you did it. You followed through. You had commitment. Like, and even your delivery of non-delivery was perfect for that style of joke. I think it was great.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
But you don't consider yourself a joke teller.
No, it's not something. It's not something I do. I'm one of those people that gets up and will start talking, and I'm way too serious during presentations. So I depend on others to help me be funny.
That's okay.
I just kind of naturally, I think, sometimes say things and do things that I don't tend to be funny. But people laugh.
You know, that's interesting. I've talked to a lot of people now who have said that, right? They don't intend to be funny, but it ends up that people laugh. And I think that there's a very, very real thing where, like, women tend to make more jokes when they're in groups of all women than they do when they're in mixed gender groups. And so there may be something around there where, you know, we don't think of ourselves as funny because we're never trying to intentionally use humor as a social tool. Most of, you know, like, you're not trying to use humor as a social tool most of the time, but you are a funny person and a person who maybe is more humorous. It's just that you don't, like, that's not your perception of your persona.
That makes perfect sense.
It seemed like I kind of ran around in a circle, but
and that's me.
So, do your kids think you're funny?
I think they just think I'm weird.
Okay.
I and they laugh at me because of my behavior, the things that they find funny.
What is an example of that?
Well, when they were younger, I told them, well, I have a name that's like the perfect joke name in a little boy perspective. April, shortened, and most people use the word ape. So they would go around making ape jokes all the time, or calling me grape ape, or you name the analogy with an ape. You can imagine a little boy. That's what they do.
I can. I'm delighted by it.
And then I also grew up with brothers, so I've always pretty much been the brunt of those kinds of jokes. But one of the things they love to do, um, and they would laugh hysterically after doing it, is scare me. They love to get me to startle me, and then they would laugh hysterically at that being hilarious. And you know what's funny is that it must be hereditary because their uncle, my big brother, used to enjoy that immensely, scaring the crap out of me. I must have that must be the way I respond must be funnier than funny
It must just be delightful.
because it seems to make them all laugh still to this day.
Huh.
They still have a penchant for scaring
Are
the
you
crap out of me.
now? Are you genuinely scared? Like, is it a scare that's going to stay with
No,
you,
but
or is it like a jump scare?
I startle easily because when you're a concentrator, when you concentrate, you're not really paying attention to the peripherals.
Sure, you kind of hyper focus.
Yeah, and so when it's easy to startle someone in that frame of mind, it's usually or they would do it when I was in the shower. They would like throw something in the shower. Then I'd hear this cackling all for 20 minutes later. Hey mom, did you get the rubber band, or did you whatever the thing is that they threw in? Yeah, no, that wasn't funny to me. Thanks.
Now, did your mom think you were funny?
Oh yeah.
Really?
Mom always thought I was funny. She was always saying that, oh, April, that was so funny. And I can't think of a specific instance right now. But I do remember that it was usually when I was a teenager. I don't remember as a little kid hearing that or that's in my head, but as a young adult, teenager or young adult, I remember hearing it on many occasions. And again, it wasn't because I was intending to be, but whatever I said or did just comes out.
That's the best kind of humor.
I'm a joyful, happy person, so I like to think that that's part of it.
Probably. Yeah, probably. I mean, like, if you reacted with these things, like, I don't think it would be as funny.
Taking it personally, when you've grown up with big brothers and then raised three boys, you have a tendency not to take your life too seriously, or anything really too seriously. Otherwise, you will be sick, miserable.
Yeah. Fascinating. So that brings us to the next section, right? Is where I ask people, what kind of projects that they're working on that they want to share. And you are working on creating a nonprofit for your interior design group.
I am. It's actually going to be a separate. It's called Design Collective 207, and we are basically a group of female entrepreneurs who want to provide. And I don't have my mission statement in front of me, and I still haven't gotten it memorized. But we are a group of entrepreneurial women who are wanting to bring together a female-focused, inclusive design community where the focus is on helping them find resources, find
Who is them?
Women.
Like potential designers or like potential users of the services?
Anyone who feels the word designer applies to them.
Oh, okay.
Whether that's someone who writes for design, whether that's someone who creates graphic design, floral
providing a space for people to collaborate.
Yeah, it's a space. We're going to start with an online presence, for obvious reasons. But it's also a good way for everybody to start connecting. And we'll have a format that will allow them to have a place to put a portfolio. There'll be a place for community. There'll be a place for um, interacting with a mentor. If you are just getting started, you just finished school, or you're an intern, there'll be a way for them to show them. They'll each have their own portfolio and a profile, so they can share their site with a potential employer, client, you name it. They'll have access to that. And now that's the online presence, but in reality, once we're allowed to, and we can start having events, we'll be having in specialty events that include museum curations, gallery visits,
Yeah, you
teaching
talked about
experience.
making an event space where, you can have all of these designers in one roof and serve all of these different event needs.
Yes, that's the long-term goal. We are working with a score mentor, myself and my partner, Shelly Stevens of Bloomers. Give her a little bit of a pop out there. If you haven't experienced Shelly's floral arrangement, floral
Floral.
arrangements from Bloomers, my tongue's not working now. Um, you got to check her out. But we are creating we want to create an environment where it's more about the collaboration and less about the competition. That's so that the support is there for female identified female designers, but we're inclusive. So, this isn't about I think one of the things that we've run into with gender issues as women is that it was always we were being excluded. And so for me, when we started talking about this program, it was really important that we be inclusive, because I didn't want to be separating somebody out just because of the gender, because that was giving them no better than what they were doing to us. So it felt like a good example. But many women who are in the design community, a lot of people think that the design community is a lot of women, which is not entirely true. There might be a lot of women, but they're not getting the credit. They're not being celebrated. They're not being seen. And we want to have them be seen, be heard, and be celebrated.
That's awesome. And that sounds like your mission statement there.
It's part of it. It is.
You did it. You did it. Good job. You got there. No, I think I imagine like creating that kind of a space. I think people are looking a lot towards collaboration and towards how to create collaboration in workplaces and make these kinds of connections happen organically. And people are going about it in different ways, whether creating online networks. We have a lot of online networks to do things like this, LinkedIn and Facebook, but it's not
Not
working for
focused.
people. And it's
Yeah.
not focused, yeah. And it's not helping people create these like spontaneous collaborative connections. So I actually, like, you are not the first person I have talked to who, is trying to form a collaborative workspace and give collaborative works, or create tools for creating these collaborative workspaces. I think for me, from a design perspective, that's fascinating, because I think about the way design can encourage collaboration and, obviously communication from the communication perspective as well.
Exactly. One of the things you and I have talked about many times is design thinking. And one of the things that I fully believe is that if we were to follow the lead of designers and use design thinking in all of our endeavors, whether in leadership in general, that we would have a lot more collaborative experiences, and a lot more things would get done, because we're allowing other people's ideas and action to take place.
It's interesting you talk about leadership, because I think I studied a little bit of transformational leadership when I was in school, and to me, like, that's good leadership, is transformational leadership, because it's leadership that inspires people to do more and inspires people to come together. And one of the very basics of transformational leadership is trust, and you have to have trust. And so, foundational to trust is that ability to listen and ask those kind of design thinking questions of, like, what do you need this to do for you?
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't think they're
What do you,
separate
what
at
is your
all.
end result? What do you want for an end result?
Right.
So here's our mission.
Oh, you found it.
So our mission is we are an action-oriented support organization connecting a female-focused, inclusive design community for resources, learning, and mentorship opportunities.
You got a lot of big words in there.
Da-da! Yeah, it is a lot of big words.
Very
But when
fancy.
you're doing a nonprofit, you gotta do things a little differently. I'm learning, and boy, is that a learning curve.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, but one thing also is partnerships. I have had partnerships over the years and worked for other people and worked with other people. And my relationship with Shelley has been the best working relationship that I have ever experienced. And we are really of the same mind. Like
That's awesome.
like we send each other information on our thoughts that we've come up with this, and we're like, huh, that's funny. That's in, and you can go and you can find it in your own notes. You're like finishing each other's sentences, which I always thought was a lovely myth. Yeah, whatever, people. But in reality, that's what's happening.
That's awesome.
Which is really, I think, is going to be key when we start actually effectively putting together the programming.
Yeah, and when you start, physically creating the space as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Having that camaraderie. Yeah. Well, that brings us to our last little wrap-up bit, which is engage your impulses. I'm encouraging people to kind of, like, stop second-guessing themselves. If you want something, do it, and do it right then. There's no... Here we are in social distancing and, pandemic end times, it feels like. So if you want to do something, do it. And don't judge yourself. So what have you done, kind of spur of the moment, to engage your impulses?
I reached out to, with everything going on with Black Lives Matter, I have really kind of sat back. In fact, my social media on all my channels has been quiet, because for me, I wanted to hear, I wanted to listen, I wanted to absorb and find out what can we do differently, because obviously what we've been doing isn't working. And so I reached out to without thinking about it, I got an email or a newsletter update from the Indigo Art Alliance, which is an ethnic-based art alliance in essence in Bayside. And I offered all of our social media, not only for my business, which is Soul Brand Design Group, the Interior Design Collective, which you see behind me or above my head, but also for the Design Collective 207's social media. I offered their artists in residence the use of my social media for on Fridays and Mondays for the month of June. Didn't think about it, didn't second guess it, just did it. And afterwards, I got an almost immediate response from Marsha, the executive director of their program, and I believe she's one of the founders as well. Of yes, I think I have a designer or an artist that will be able to utilize this. So I'm still waiting to hear back from them. But it was like,
that's awesome.
I took action, which I really wanted to do. And it was really important to me that I take action, not just post some, yeah, we're on your side, we got your back, we're supporting you, which was, in my mind, feels really inauthentic and
kind of performative.
Yeah, I wanted something. I wanted action, and it worked. Yeah. And hopefully, I'll be able to continue this. And it started the wheels rolling about how else can I do this? What other programs are going on that could be supported in this way? And then I also utilize a company called I Fund Women, which is a crowdfunding. They're out of New York, and they have started a new division of theirs, which is I Fund Black Women. And they did that before this ever happened. But it is relatively new. I think it's about a month old. But it's a way for people to not just talk about it, but put your money where your mouth is. You can actually fund female Black female businesses from the ground up and get them on the board and operating.
Yeah.
I can't
I
imagine a
remember
better way to take action.
I remember being, in a nonprofit I worked for in Oregon and talking about, how do we increase the minority applicants to open positions, and talking about and learning about, like, okay, you can't just be like, why aren't more people of color applying, right? You actually have to, like, do the work to, build trust with communities and, like, actually proactively reach out, like, if I asked for volunteers even just for this show, probably a majority of the volunteers would be men, um, which, like, is fine and that's great, and men are great, but to proactively reach out to people and be like, no, you are important, I want to hear from you, I want to hear this voice, like, it's a different, it requires thoughtful work and trust building.
Yes, agreed. It's funny because I take for granted a lot of things. Technically, I am over half, so I'm basically a multi-race person myself. But I get treated like a white woman, so in my mind, I don't count, and I don't
Yeah.
in that scope. But I grew up in Seattle, and when I was in high school, we still had busing. And I look at the fact that I got bused to the central Seattle to Garfield High School, which I can't imagine my life had I not had that experience, because I grew up in the same I went to the same high school as Jimi Hendrix. I went
Wow.
to the same high school. Quincy Jones used to come visit our school once or twice a year. I think he still does. I don't know at his age if he's still able to do that. But those experiences encouraged me in so many different ways. In fact, I started learning opera because of Quincy Jones's visit. He had an opera singer come.
That's right, you studied opera, I forgot that.
So it's like, yeah, these are things I would never want to change about my life and about my experiences, because they've helped make who I am. So for me, it's like, yeah, why is it that it stops there? Why did we stop there at doing something that works? And I'm glad that the nation, the world as a whole, is starting to say not enough and start taking action.
Yeah. Well, with that, I am going to thank you for being on my show. I will
Hey,
play the outro. um,
do it. Let's do it.
it's just like, here we go. We gotta spend time to
Every morning, find me
go back.
moaning.
Nope. There we go. Now we have it. it Not everything works on the first try. But thanks for being on my show.
Thanks for having me. It was a blast. And
Good.
I got to work on my joke delivery. Just something different.
Or you don't. Like, you don't have to be anything other than what you are.